What happened on Court 11 at the US Open wasn't just another tennis match argument. It became a complete meltdown that divided the entire tennis world and left Jelena Ostapenko facing serious consequences that could damage her career forever. When the final point landed and Townsend had won her incredible upset victory, nobody expected what would happen next. The crowd was already celebrating Townsend's amazing win against the higher-ranked player. But then Ostapenko opened her mouth and said words that changed everything. The words were so shocking and completely inappropriate that even experienced tennis fans couldn't believe what they were hearing. Now the aftermath is absolutely brutal, with sponsors pulling out, tournament officials scrambling to respond, and the tennis community asking one simple question. How did a professional athlete think she could say something so offensive to another player and face no consequences? This story goes much deeper than just tennis manners or good sportsmanship. This touches on something that has black athletes and tennis fans everywhere feeling upset about what really happened on that court. When lip-reading experts got involved and revealed exactly what was said word for word, it became clear why this scandal was going to get much worse before it got better. What actually happened? Let me take you back to what really occurred, because if you think you know this story, you probably don't know the complete truth. On August 27, 2025, at the US Open second round, Townsend, ranked 139th in the world, walked onto Court 11 to face Jelena Ostapenko, the 25th seed and former French Open champion. On paper, this should have been an easy victory for Ostapenko. She was the established player, the one with the Grand Slam title, the one everyone expected to move easily to the next round. But Townsend had different plans, and honestly, good for her. This woman had been working hard for years, fighting to make her mark in singles tennis while being absolutely dominant in doubles. She's currently ranked number 1 in the world in doubles and has multiple Grand Slam titles in that format, but singles had always been where she wanted to prove herself. On this day, against one of the biggest names in women's tennis, everything came together perfectly for Townsend. She came out playing aggressively from the very first game. Her serve was working well, her returns were sharp, and you could see Ostapenko getting more and more frustrated as the match went on. The first set was competitive, but Townsend managed to break through and win it 7-5. Then something shifted in the second set. Maybe Ostapenko felt the pressure building. Maybe Townsend just found another level of play. But what happened next was complete domination. Townsend absolutely crushed the second set 6-1, and suddenly, we had one of the biggest upsets of the tournament. The crowd was going wild with excitement. Townsend was celebrating her victory. Everyone was thinking about what an incredible story this was. A lower-ranked American player beating a seeded former Grand Slam champion on home soil at the US Open. This is exactly the kind of moment that makes tennis special. The meltdown at the net. But then the two players met at the net for the traditional handshake, and everything went completely wrong. Instead of the customary good sportsmanship and congratulations, Ostapenko decided this was the perfect moment to completely lose control. The cameras caught it all, the microphones picked it up, and what came out of her mouth was so shocking that the crowd immediately started booing loudly. This wasn't gentle disapproval from the audience. This was loud, angry booing from hundreds of people who could not believe what they had just witnessed. Here's what everyone could hear clearly. Ostapenko told Townsend, "You have no class and no education." But she didn't stop there. She kept going, saying, "We will see how well you are with little education or class, and you are the worst disrespectful player, and you have no education. You have no education. You have no education." She literally said, "You have no education," 3 times to a black American woman who had just beaten her fair and square in front of thousands of people on live television at the most important tennis tournament in America. The crowd was having absolutely none of it. The booing got louder and louder until Ostapenko finally walked away, leaving Townsend standing there having to process what had just happened while trying to enjoy what should have been one of the biggest wins of her career. Townsend's classy response. You know what Townsend did? She handled the situation with more class than Ostapenko has shown in her entire career. When reporters asked her about the incident immediately after the match, she said, "It's competition. People get upset when they lose. Some people say bad things." But then she added something that showed exactly who she is as a person. Still, there's no beef. But again, like you saw, I didn't back down because you're not going to insult me, especially after I carried myself a certain type of way with nothing but respect. Can we talk about the incredible composure it takes to respond like that? To have someone attack your intelligence and education in front of the world and still take the high road? I honestly don't know if I could have been that gracious in the same situation. The ridiculous reason behind the outburst. Here's where the story gets heavy. More interesting, because Ostapenko didn't just randomly decide to have a meltdown. According to her, this whole thing started because of something that happened during the match. Something so petty and absolutely ridiculous that when you hear what it was, you'll understand exactly what kind of person we're dealing with. Ostapenko was angry because Townsend didn't apologize for a net cord shot. Let me explain this for anyone who doesn't follow tennis closely. Sometimes when you hit a shot, the ball clips the top of the net and still goes over to win the point. It's pure luck. And there's an unwritten rule in tennis that you raise your hand or say sorry to acknowledge that you got lucky. Most players do it automatically. But here's the important thing. It's not actually required. It's just a courtesy. Apparently, Townsend didn't apologize during a crucial point in their match. That's it. That's what set Ostapenko off completely. A missing sorry for a lucky shot that happens in literally every tennis match ever played. Think about how absurd that is as a reason to personally attack someone's intelligence and education. Making it worse on social media, Ostapenko posted on Instagram later trying to justify her behavior, and honestly, it made everything much worse. She wrote, "Today after the match, I told my opponent that she was very disrespectful as she had a netball in a very deciding moment and didn't say sorry. But her answer was to say that she doesn't have to say sorry at all." Then she added this particularly troubling comment. If she plays in her homeland, it doesn't mean that she can behave and do whatever she wants. Excuse me, what? Her homeland? What exactly is that supposed to mean? Because the way that reads, it sounds like she's saying Townsend was acting inappropriately because she was playing in America, and somehow that gave her permission to not follow tennis etiquette. The undertones in that statement are not subtle at all. The tennis community responds. The tennis community started responding immediately, and they were not having any of Ostapenko's behavior. Naomi Osaka, who knows a thing or two about dealing with unfair treatment in tennis, posted on her social media calling out Ostapenko's comments. She said that telling a black tennis player they have no education is one of the worst things you can say in a sport that is predominantly white. Let's be honest about what's happening here. Tennis has a long and complicated history with black players. From Althea Gibson breaking barriers in the 1950s to the Williams sisters dealing with racism throughout their careers, black tennis players have constantly had their intelligence, their education, and their right to be on the court questioned. For Ostapenko to use that specific language, whether she realized the implications or not, hit a nerve that goes way deeper than tennis. Naomi Osaka wasn't finished with her criticism. She also said this wasn't even the most outrageous thing Ostapenko had said in her career, suggesting that this kind of behavior is part of a pattern. This makes sense when you think about it. Professional tennis players don't just randomly explode like this unless there's something deeper going on. The lip-reading analysis. This is where the story takes another wild turn. A lip-reading expert on TikTok decided to analyze the footage and break down exactly what was said during that exchange at the net. When the full conversation was revealed according to the lip reader, it showed that the conversation was even worse than what people initially heard. According to the analysis, Ostapenko started complaining about the net cord incident, and when Townsend basically said she didn't have to apologize, Ostapenko completely lost control. The no education, no class comments were just the beginning. There were more personal attacks, more insults, and a level of disrespect that honestly should result in serious consequences from tennis authorities. Townsend keeps winning. You know what Townsend did while all this drama was exploding on social media? She went out and played her next match against the number 5 seed in the world, Mira Andreeva, a teenager who had been defeating everyone on tour. And Townsend didn't just play. She won in straight sets, 7-5, 6-2. She wore this incredible outfit with painted flames on the sleeves, and when reporters asked her about the design, she said it represented phoenixes rising from the ashes, getting stronger from adversity. Could the symbolism be any more perfect? While Ostapenko was online trying to justify her behavior, Townsend was out there backing up her victory with another upset win. The official response. The WTA and tournament officials found themselves in a really difficult position. On one hand, you have clear unsportsmanlike conduct from Ostapenko. On the other hand, she's a former Grand Slam champion, a seeded player, and someone who brings viewers and revenue to tournaments. But the public reaction was so swift and so overwhelmingly negative that they couldn't just ignore what happened. Social media was exploding with criticism of Ostapenko. Tennis fans, both black and white, were calling her comments racist. Sports commentators were weighing in on the controversy. Even people who don't normally follow tennis were talking about the story and sharing their opinions. The pathetic non-apology. 3 days later, Ostapenko tried to apologize. Sort of. She posted another Instagram story that was honestly one of the most pathetic non-apology apologies anyone has ever seen. She said that English isn't her first language, and when she said education, she was only talking about tennis etiquette, not actual education. But here's the problem with that excuse. She said, no education 3 times. 3 times. And she was speaking clearly enough for everyone to understand exactly what she meant. Plus, she's been playing professional tennis for years, doing interviews in English, posting on social media in English. The language barrier excuse doesn't work when you've been fluent enough to communicate in English professionally for over a decade. Notice what she didn't do in that apology. She didn't mention Taylor Townsend by name. She didn't apologize directly to her. She didn't acknowledge the racial undertones that everyone was talking about. It was a carefully written PR statement designed to make the controversy disappear without actually taking responsibility for what she said. Townsend's perfect response. Taylor Townsend wasn't about to let the weak apology slide. When reporters asked her about it after she won her doubles match, her response was perfect. She said she hadn't even seen the apology. She hadn't heard from Ostapenko personally, and honestly, she was too busy focusing on her tennis to worry about what Ostapenko was posting on social media. Then she said something that really got to the heart of the matter. That's nice that she did that she apologized. That's fine. That's cool. At the end of the day, I think that it's a learning lesson for her. It's great that she went to social media and apologized. But I really hope that from this she can take that like, hey, you can't control people, and it's better just to focus on yourself. Translation. Your public apology is meaningless because you still don't understand what you did wrong. And I'm not wasting any more energy on this because I have a tournament to play. The bigger picture. That's exactly what makes this story so powerful. Taylor Townsend didn't let Ostapenko's behavior ruin her tournament. She didn't get caught up in the drama or the social media debates. She just kept playing tennis and winning matches. She made it to the 4th round of the US Open, which is the deepest she's ever gone in a Grand Slam singles draw. Meanwhile, Ostapenko was eliminated in the 2nd round after losing to Townsend, then spent the rest of the tournament dealing with negative press and trying to explain her behavior. Let's talk about the broader implications of this story, because this isn't just about 2 tennis players having an argument. This is about power dynamics, about respect, and about how black athletes are treated differently in predominantly white sports. Tennis has always been seen as a gentleman's sport, right? It has this reputation for being polite, refined, and proper. Players are expected to show respect for their opponents, for the officials, and for the traditions of the game. But what happens when that politeness and respect only flows one way? What happens when black players are expected to be gracious and respectful no matter what, but their opponents can say whatever they want without consequences? Historical context. This isn't an isolated incident. We've seen this pattern before in tennis. Black players get criticized for showing emotion, for celebrating too much, for not being gracious enough in victory or defeat. Meanwhile, white players can throw tantrums, break rackets, argue with officials, and it's just seen as competitive fire. Serena Williams dealt with this for her entire career. Every time she showed passion or argued a call, she was labeled as aggressive or difficult. But when white players did the same thing, they were praised for their intensity. Venus Williams has talked about having her intelligence questioned throughout her career, despite being one of the most articulate and thoughtful athletes in any sport. Now we have Taylor Townsend, a woman who's literally a college graduate who speaks multiple languages and runs her own business ventures, being told she has no education by someone who couldn't handle losing a tennis match. The racial implications. The racial implications of Ostapenko's comments cannot be ignored. When you tell a black person they have no education, especially in a context where they've just outperformed you at something, you're tapping into centuries of racist stereotypes about black intelligence and capability. Whether Ostapenko intended it that way or not, that's how it lands. And that's why the reaction was so strong. But here's what gives me hope about this story. The response from the tennis community was overwhelmingly supportive of Taylor Townsend. Players, commentators, fans, and people from all backgrounds came together to call out Ostapenko's behavior and lift up Townsend. That's progress. That's the tennis community saying, we don't tolerate this kind of disrespect. Consequences and career impact. Tournament officials are reviewing the incident, and there's growing pressure for some kind of disciplinary action. The WTA has conduct policies that cover unsportsmanlike behavior and actions that bring the sport into disrepute. What Ostapenko did could definitely fall under those categories. Even if there's no formal suspension, the court of public opinion has already delivered its verdict. Ostapenko's reputation has taken a massive hit. Her social media mentions are overwhelmingly negative. Tennis fans are calling for accountability, and that kind of reputation damage can last for years. Let's be honest about something. Ostapenko's career has been on a bit of a downward trajectory lately anyway. She won the French Open back in 2017, which was amazing, but since then she hasn't been able to consistently perform at that level. She's known more for her inconsistency and apparently her attitude problems than for her tennis achievements. This incident just reinforces the narrative that she's difficult to work with and doesn't handle pressure well. That's not the kind of reputation that leads to lucrative sponsorship deals or invitations to prestigious exhibitions. Townsend's rising star. Meanwhile, Taylor Townsend is having a career renaissance. At 29, she's playing some of the best tennis of her life. Her doubles success has given her financial stability and confidence, and now she's translating that into singles results. The way she handled this controversy is only going to make her more popular with fans and more attractive to potential sponsors. Townsend has always been someone who represents the sport well. She's articulate, professional, and relatable. She's overcome injuries, ranking struggles, and now public disrespect with grace and determination. Those are exactly the qualities that brands want to be associated with. Let's talk about the broader context of American tennis right now. With Serena retired and Venus nearing the end of her career, there's been a lot of discussion about who the next generation of American women's tennis stars will be. Players like Coco Gauff and Jessica Pegula are carrying that torch, but there's room for more inspiring stories. Taylor Townsend, a 29-year-old mother and former college player making deep runs at Grand Slams, is exactly the kind of inspiring story that American tennis needs. It shows that there are multiple paths to success, that it's never too late to chase your dreams, and that handling adversity with class can be just as powerful as any tennis shot. Final thoughts. As for Jelena Ostapenko, she's learned the hard way that actions have consequences. In today's social media world, you can't just say whatever you want and expect it to disappear. Everything is recorded, everything is analyzed, and everything has the potential to go viral. Her reputation in the tennis world has taken a serious hit, and rebuilding that trust is going to take a lot more than a half-hearted Instagram apology. She's going to have to show through her actions over time that she understands what she did wrong and is committed to doing better. But honestly, based on her response so far, I'm not expecting that kind of growth and self-awareness anytime soon. What I am excited about is seeing what Taylor Townsend does next. She's proven she can compete with the best players in the world when she's playing her best tennis. She's shown she can handle pressure and adversity with incredible maturity. And she's demonstrated the kind of character that makes you want to root for someone. The tennis world is better when players like Taylor Townsend are succeeding. She represents the sport with dignity. She brings new fans to the game. And she shows that tennis is for everyone, regardless of background or ranking. Isn't that what sports should be about? competition, respect, and celebrating excellence, regardless of where it comes from.